National Economic Council meets on effects of COVID-19 in the country.
We'll go into recession.
Which camera am I using?
So that it is shallow, so that we'll be able to quickly pull out of it come 2021.
Center for Disease Control confirms 339 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total number of infections to 7,016.
Chairman of PTF on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, urges citizens to take responsibility on maintaining physical hygiene during the Salah holidays.
As we celebrate, we want to once again caution on the need to wear a mask, keep physical distancing.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss COVID-19 and Eid al-Fitr.
All right, as usual, we're starting off with a popular quote. Well, not too popular. And it goes like this: one who is seized with terror, fright, and madness during the night is visited or is said to, be visited by Luna. That is the Roman goddess of the moon. And that was by Hippocrates, that's father of modern medicine. But back in ancient times, Roman mythology associated the moon with metaphysical abilities that was said to have transformed some people into weird creatures, of course, like werewolves.
Now, the moon is also regarded as man's most loyal companion, and beyond the rising and the setting of the sun, which determines the pace of each day, the moon also provides a second source of light to keep time beyond a single day or night, and has been a very reliable marker of time for some religious festivals.
Precisely. Now, specifically in Islam, Muslims look out for the first crescent moon to determine the Hilal and Eid al-Fitr, which of course is the beginning and end of Ramadan fast. Now, it is expected that by the end of today, Muslims all over the world will mark Eid al-Fitr celebration.
But while preparations are ongoing, the event, of course, will be marked amidst lockdown measures stipulated by various governments, and this is on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, as part of efforts to contain the further spread of the virus, Muslim authorities across the world have expanded restrictions on large gatherings. And some predominantly Muslim countries such as Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia have even extended the curfew in their respective countries for the entirety of the Eid celebration.
And reports from Al-Azhar University in Egypt, which is considered the seat of Sunni Islamic thought, issued a fatwa, that's a decree, that Eid prayers be conducted at home to protect lives of citizens. And in Germany, chairman of the Central Council of Muslims is reported to have said, and I quote, "It is our religious obligation to take upon ourselves these painful cuts during the coronavirus pandemic, especially in the communal practice of religion, for the protection of our fellow human beings," unquote.
Now, back home in Nigeria, some state governors have been amending the national lockdown directives. And it's been back and forth between the Council of Ulamas and some state governors over decisions to lift the ban on the precautionary measures intended to contain community spread of COVID-19. Some state governors in the north, specifically Bauchi, Kano, Yobe, Borno, Jigawa, and Gombe, as well as Zamfara, have asked their citizens to observe the congregational Eid prayers.
Well, Kingsley, and of course the relaxation of the protocols comes amidst rising cases of the disease in Nigeria. We know that so far, as at early this morning, there are more than 7,000 positive cases of COVID-19 in the country, with over 200 deaths, as reported by the NCDC. But also, just to add that the Sultan of Sokoto has admonished Muslims all over the country to comply with the federal government's protocols on containing the spread of the virus. So it is against this background that we focus on Eid al-Fitr celebration in a COVID-19 pandemic on Good Morning Nigeria today. I want to thank all of you, wherever you're joining us from, Abuja, Nigeria, and outside the country. I am Claire Adilabu Abdurazak.
Our conversation will also deal with the implications of the measures being adopted by some state governors and, of course, try to identify what spiritual gaps there might be for those who will be observing the Eid at home. I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire to also welcome you to the program being broadcast live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority.
And in a moment, we'll be joining Chimobi Walter Naji for highlights of the morning news. Then there'll be business news. And much later, Bayatebe will join us for the newspaper review. So, time to hand over to Chimobi for the morning news. Chimobi, good morning.
Hello, good morning to you, Claire and Kingsley. It's good to see you this morning. Good morning, Nigeria. And here is the morning news. It is now crystal clear that the country is heading for an economic recession as projected by the National Bureau of Statistics as a result of the negative impact of the coronavirus pandemic. But with the current fiscal stimulus plan to sustain the economy, this may be short-lived, and the federal government says it is as well committed to supporting the financial viability of states despite the dwindling revenues and foreign earnings. The World Bank is also proposing a plan of $1.5 billion for the 36 states of the Federation, which disbursements within the next 3 months will be based on performance of its existing World Bank financed programs in the such states. Now, these were made known at a virtual meeting of the National Economic Council held this Thursday.
Reduce the impact of that recession. And if we apply all that has been proposed and we're able to implement it, we might end up with a recession that is minus 0.4%. So in any case, we'll go into a recession. What we're trying to do is to make sure that it is shallow so that we'll be able to quickly pull out of it come 2021.
And in the meantime, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 339 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, increasing the total number of confirmed cases to 7,016. Now, of the 339 new cases, 139 are in Lagos, 28 are in Kano and Oyo, 25 in Edo, 22 in Katsina, 18 in Kaduna, 14 in Jigawa, 13 in Yobe State and Plateau, while 11 in the FCT, 8 in Gombe, and 5 in Ogun. And you have 4 in Bauchi and Nasarawa State. Now, 3 in Delta, 2 in Ondo, and 1 in Rivers and Adamawa State. And Lagos State now has a total of 3,093 cases, followed by Kano with 875, while the FCT has 446 confirmed cases. In total, there are 4,898 active cases, while 1,907 patients have been discharged, with 211 deaths recorded so far. In other stories now, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has urged state governments and other subnational entities to diligently implement all guidelines and refrain from relaxing restrictions which could set back the gains already made in the fight against COVID-19. It was reported that Chairman of the PTF, Boss Mustafa, is urging citizens to take responsibility on personal hygiene during the Salah holidays.
Once again, caution on the need to wear a mask, keep physical distancing, avoid large congregations, avoid unnecessary interstate travels, and observe personal hygiene, amongst other suggested safety measures.
Within state borders, the restrictions relating to reduced occupancy for buses, taxis, and tricycles will be maintained.
We're thinking about community management. We're thinking about home isolation. We haven't come out with any definite policy on this, but we are thinking about these things because we have to.
In the meantime, 25 orphanages in the FCT have joined the list of beneficiaries of palliatives by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development as part of its COVID-19 response outreach to the poor and vulnerable in the area. The flag-off was done at a Nawim orphanage in Gwagwalada Area Council.
Opens, I think, it's not only just providing food items, but it touches the heart and mind. And these young boys and the girls, I hope one day they will become the leaders of our country.
Just last week, I went to the storeroom. It was empty because for the past 2 months, we have not been receiving gifts. So this foodstuff you have provided will go a very long way for us.
I feel happy. So I thank God for them bringing the things, and may God protect you.
And as part of measures to halt the spread of the novel COVID-19 and reduce the rate of unemployment among women and youths, National Directorate of Employment, NTA, Kano, in collaboration with the Future Assured Initiative of Wife of the President, have commenced production of 20,000 face masks. The effort is also to facilitate effective compliance with the state government's directive, which makes the use of face masks compulsory by all and sundry in the state.
We want to produce for people because some people don't have money to buy it.
One of the major advices had always been that people should wear face mask because it mitigates the spread greatly.
The National Emergency Management Agency says it has so far distributed more than 20,000 metric tons of grains to Lagos, Ogun, and FCT and Kano State. The government agency says it will continue with distribution of grains of 20 additional states battling with the spread of COVID-19. Directorate of Relief and Rehabilitation of NEMA stated this while briefing journalists on the distribution pattern soon after the inaugural meeting of the new DG with the directors of the agency. 24 states have been earmarked to benefit from the distribution of the grains as directed by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk.
Metric tons, millet 1,380 metric tons, sorghum 1,710 metric tons.
The National Interreligious Committee is sustaining prayers for the recovery of the economy for stability, good governance and Nigeria's national development, as well as praying for the world to defeat COVID-19. The virtual prayers brought together clerics from across the country.
I pray to Almighty Allah, the creator of heaven and earth, the most beneficent, the most merciful, to guide us aright, to save us from this pandemic.
We have come to you at this moment because of the situation that our world is in. We have found ourselves being ravaged by COVID-19. We are calling upon you that you will help us to experience your compassion.
Now, the federal government has declared Monday 25th and Tuesday 26th May 2020 as public holidays to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration. The Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, who made the declaration on behalf of the federal government, congratulated all Muslim faithful for the successful completion of the Ramadan fast. Aregbesola, who called on them to replicate the life of kindness, love, tolerance, peace, and good neighborliness as exemplified by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him. All right, and those are the news highlights for now. And Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Kingsley just after the break. I'm Chimubi Walter Naji. Good morning.
The main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. In this time of despair, our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. a chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus doom our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am the Iroko when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am the Obeche when the forest is burning. Our differences will not stop us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for us to take some business stories with our correspondent, Abdulkarim Zurmi, talking about the issues relating to the gradual reopening of the economy.
The restrictions notwithstanding, business owners are enthused with the easing of the lockdown and are adopting measures and observing protocols to cater for the safety of their staff and customers.
With the reopenings that are taking place in most of the states, obviously it's proof positive that the government have the people in mind, and also that the agency saddled with the responsibility to look after these issues are actually doing their best to unraveling the matters. So I would like to commend the government, and we also trust further that we'll have more openings from other sectors of the economy.
Meanwhile, the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, increased by 12.34% in April 2020 with 0.09% point raise from 11.62% recorded in March 2020. The urban inflation rate increased by 13.01% from 12.93% year-on-year and 1.06% from 0.88% month-on-month, while the rural is 11.73% from 11.64% year-on-year and 0.98% from 0.80% month-on-month. The increase in food index is due to rise in prices of potatoes, yam and other tubers, bread and cereals, fish, oils and fats, meats, fruits, as well as vegetables. Whereas core inflation without the prices of unstable agricultural produce stood at 9.98% in April 2020, up by 0.25%. Now let's head to the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange to see how the market fared on Thursday, 21st of July, 2020. With business news, Abdul Karim Zermi.
All right, let's take you further into the program as we introduce newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Tebe, is right here with us in the studios for today's session. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Nigeria. Good to see you too.
All right, let's begin with the Punch newspaper. The window page above the nameplate says inflation hit two-year high at 12.34% in April, and that's attributed to the NBS, that's the National Bureau of Statistics. Details can be found on page 19. Observe Salah prayers at home, Sultan tells Muslims again. That's page 10. 10 trillion naira spent on fuel subsidy in 15 years. That's according to marketers. Nigerians evading tax on foreign properties risk prosecution. Details on page 12. And the latest story says, with a double-decker headline, federal government asks churches, mosques, and others to submit guidelines for reopening. With three riders, governors to partner presidential task force for reopening of the economy. Nigerians purchasing chloroquine in large quantities, PTF cries out. Churches and mosques reopen in Benue and civil servants resume June 1st. And then you'll see the photographs there on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Says a human disinfectant machine at the entrance of the administration wing of the presidential villa in Abuja on Thursday. And that photograph is there on the front page. I think there was something designed and produced by Naseni in terms of this human disinfectant, automatic, that you walk through it. It's also very safe, according to Naseni. I wouldn't know whether this is what has been installed now in the presidential villa. Armed men invade Abuja communities, kill 3, rob residents. That's pages 4 and 5. Raw accepts new 2-year deal to coach Super Eagles. That's page 31. Federal government declares Monday and Tuesday Eid al-Fitr holidays. Kano youth who abducted and impregnated S.A. Oruru jailed 26 years. That story is on page 11. And Bauchi, 18-year-old, kills husband. And that's after 11 days of marriage. Details on page 5. 40 infected Kano doctors and health workers discharged. Details on page 8. Infected, of course, with COVID-19.
Okay, Kingsley, let me take the lead story from the Daily Sun, and it's on same. It says governors frustrating COVID-19 fight, and this is attributed to the federal government. It comes with the rider, flays reopening of religious gathering. And of course, just below that, above that, you can find federal government declares Monday, Tuesday public holiday. Read it up on page 24. And just a bit above that, the earpiece, you can find there, curfew. Kano, Plateau, FCTA go tough on violators. And the rider there says convict 225 impound cars, truck and buses. Details of that story is on page 27. And the picture story on the front page here speaks to a community orientation and mobilization going on, undertaken by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, somewhere in the local government area in Kano State on safety measures to stop the spread of the COVID-19. But you can see, you can see the children there, crowded together. There's no sign of social distancing and all that. Anyway, you get to speak to that later. Now, other stories trending at the bottom of the paper. Buhari signs amended order for voluntary declaration of offshore assets. 24, that's where you can read it up. And then Eid al-Fitr, Sultan suspends congregations at prayer ground, and council directs Kwara Muslims to pray at homes. Details of those on page 24 and 27. And Kingsley read this one earlier on. Ururu's abductors bag 26 years jail term. Details of that on page 4. Trending story at the bottom. Chinese doctors should be held liable, and this is coming from enemy orders insisting. Details of that you can find on page 25. Bayo, which is your take?
Let me start with the hottest news now, the expectation about Eid al-Fitr, which is likely to come up over the weekend. The Fatwa Committee has urged that Eid al-Fitr congregational prayers, usually held in the outskirts of towns and cities, should be suspended. Meanwhile, the Jamaat Nasratul Islam Fatwa Committee, under the auspices of the Sultan, has advised that Muslims should observe Eid prayers at home. This is to meet the challenges of COVID-19. The Secretary General of the Jamaat Nasratul Islam, Sheikh Khalid Aliyu, says that the JNF Fatwa Committee enjoined that Eid al-Fitr prayer should be observed at home. It could be with the family, or if you are alone, you can pray it alone. And the Fatwa Committee also explained that if you are praying at home, that aspect of the khutbah, which is the sermon, is now suspended. Meanwhile, usually the Sultan is expected to come with the announcement for all to look out for the moon, the crescent that signals the end of Ramadan and the beginning of the celebration of Eid al-Fitr. But astronomers at Majma University near Riyadh says that there's no possibility of sighting the crescent of the Ramadan Shawwal this evening. This is because they say the sun will set today at 6:39 p.m. at 293 degrees, and the moon will already have be at its set by 6:26 p.m., which means there's no way you can sight the moon. Therefore, the astronomers are saying that they will be fasting tomorrow, and Eid al-Fitr is likely to be on Sunday. From that postulation, they supported that with their own astronomical dedication. They said the sun on Saturday will set at 6:40 p.m., while the moon will have set earlier on, so the crescent will be visible by 7:23. So that is science coming to the aid of what is going on. Meanwhile, yesterday, to bring you update on COVID-19, we had 339 of our compatriots testing positive in 18 states. Lagos had 139, Kano and Oyo had 28, Edo had 25, Katsina 22, and Kaduna 18. Total so far 7,016. Among our cases, our compatriots have been discharged at 1,907. The active cases is 5,104. Unfortunately, we had 9 fatalities, bringing our total lost departed compatriots to 211. So far, the deaths are from 29 states. There are 8 states that still have not recorded any case of any death at all. 2 states have not, in fact, recorded any case of COVID-19. Meanwhile, the federal government says it's looking forward to reopening schools, but speculations in the social media that schools are opening in 2 weeks is not true. The Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajuiba, said that government is looking at the possibility with stakeholders of a situation where school children will not be endangered if they go to school. He specifically said we want a situation whereby they can go into school safely and come back to school safely. And he said that the Ministry of Education is working with the Ministry of Science and Technology to look for a system that can disinfect the children as they go into school and come out. And that points to the issue that Kingsley read earlier on, the machine that you said is at the presidency. Maybe something like that is being contemplated for the schools.
You know, that's the issue that is raging, in the other countries of the world. This morning, I know on one of the international media, stations, it was an issue whether or not to allow school children. And indeed, the response was that coronavirus is causing inequality in terms of in the area of education. Not, children of the poor, don't have access to virtual learning. And even those who are returning to school in some of these countries are only children of the rich. The poor ones are not going back to school. So it's an issue, the school thing. I don't know.
The other concern which the Director General of the NCDC has said that faith-based organization or other should submit guidelines for reopening to NCDC. The whole idea is for them to look at it and provide advice. And he cites an example. Transport Owners Association, those who operate long-distance buses, what we usually refer to as luxury buses, they have already provided their guideline, and NCDC is to help them.
My concern with the schools, Bayo, the seating capacity, each class, the classes are so crowded. So how do you begin to observe or comply with the social distancing? Are you going to create more classrooms, or are you going to take the students in batches? Because in the primary schools, you can have as many as 50. That's just, merely speaking. There are some classes that have over 80, pupils.
More than that. In fact, maybe they will have to follow the pattern that happened in South Africa. What they did was to open schools according to grade. Where there are a lot of crowded pupils, they delayed that. So they started with 7th grade, which had less people. And then they will now look at the atmosphere of social distancing within the classroom. That, in fact, is a big challenge. And that's why the Honorable Minister of State for Education was saying that they are meeting with stakeholders to put in place the appropriate modalities.
There's no question about it that the disruption occasioned by COVID-19 is one that will linger for a while. If we were to look at the aggregate time lost now, it's almost the equivalent of a term. Those who are in their final year were supposed to be preparing for their certificate exams have had that now delayed until further notice. So the government and indeed all stakeholders will have to come to an arrangement by which there will be some trade-off. There's no question about it. The South African model is interesting, but how long can you sustain that? It means some persons will be in school at some point and others will also not be in school. And I think that it's also important to further challenge our scientists. Challenging them also means that the governments will have to engage them, states and federal. And how do you engage them? To say, look, what are the likely issues that will arise if pupils were to return to classes as they were in the past? In other words, you're not going to start building new classrooms, let's face it, and then the teachers themselves will also have to they have to deal with the work of their pupils. Yes. In other words, you come with your notebook, you don't know what surfaces the child has touched, how frequently are you going to be sanitizing your hands or washing your hands, and so on and so forth. I don't know whether it's relevant to indicate an experimental period to see if the pupils go back to school and after, say, 2, 3, 4 weeks, there's no spike in the number of infections. It's all right, maybe probably business as usual until, of course, a vaccine is available. But to say that, because of COVID-19, everything is paralyzed, the pupils, they need to be engaged in terms of their educational pursuits.
All right, Kids, let's quickly take, let's quickly take the editorial, and basically it's on COVID-19 and job losses, and the editorial is from the Nigerian Pilot. It's saying level of unemployment in the country is at its highest. So we call on President Administration to really sit up.
Yeah, did you say the editorial from the Pilot?
Yes.
That reminds me of a story which we interest to. A pilot landed at the filling station just to buy fuel. He bought his fuel, jumped into his helicopter, and took off. One of the observers said that for a pilot to land at the filling station, he must be an experienced and dexterous pilot.
Which country is that?
It happened in Poland.
It has to be in other countries.
And guess what? The police is after him. Another said he should lose his license for doing that. I was going to ask Kingsley, do they sell aviation fuel at filling stations?
Aviation fuel is not available at filling stations. And what kind of fuel did he buy, by the way? Did he buy the fuel
in
a jerrycan, or did he buy the fuel, in his helicopter? And the important thing, an helicopter has a rotor minimum, or could have rotors, one at the top and another one at the tail. So what space was available for him to have landed, and how long was the hose that went into his tank to fill it? I mean, aviation fuel is usually dual-purpose kerosene.
Yes.
That's DPK.
All right, Bayo.
Some persons are weird anyway. So.
Bayo, thank you. We don't have much time. Do have a good weekend.
You too.
And of course, Baraka de Salah,
Yes, in advance. Thank you
because
very
I won't
much.
see you
We too.
till next week. All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll start off our conversation. Don't go away.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19,